All right, give me a second. I got to get into character here.
Method acting, okay.
Blister me bagpipes, folks. Welcome
No,
to-
stop it! I just...
Okay.
Off the elbow.
Good morning, evening, or whenever you are listening to this. Welcome to the Program Advanced Podcast, the only internet podcast for Megaman Battle Network and Megaman NT Warrior. I am your host.
Is that true?
Well, I like to think it is. I don't know if there's another podcast. But
I was just so confident. I'm sorry.
But no,
Anyways,
that's
yours.
fine. That's a good intro. But in case there is another podcast, no, there isn't. So
That one sucks. Well, listen to ours.
My name is Double. I am joined by four of my good friends: Bioroxus,
Hello.
Jin,
It's me.
Hello.
Shorah,
Oh, I'm jacking in.
Stop.
and Yukki.
No.
Hi, Yukki.
No.
That caught me off guard.
We're gonna acknowledge that people say things that are very lewd about jacking in, but that's it.
Yep, that's
That's
it.
the only time we're gonna talk about it ever.
I
I
guarantee
don't
you
know
that's
what
not
you're
the only
talking
time.
about, but I'll jack into your squirrel if that's what it takes.
Stop.
Right. So,
And he said it.
so yes, we are a Battle Network podcast with the Legacy Collection coming out a couple days ago. We're all huge fans of the series. We have been for a long time. So I figured what we would do in the intro is talk about ourselves a little bit, how we kind of got into the series, introduce ourselves, don't die, and then we'll get right into the anime. So no, you're good. Why don't we start with, I'm gonna pick you at random, Shorah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, favorite game in the series, maybe your favorite net Navi, and yeah.
Okay, so hi, I'm Shorah. I'm an artist. I'm also on the Millennium Microphone, a Yu-Gi-Oh rewatch podcast. Go check that out. We watch Yu-Gi-Oh and talk about it. It also has vaguely trading card-esque aspects. As for Battle Network, however, so Mega Man Battle Network was for me the first Mega Man game that actually ever caught my attention.
Really?
I've
Oh, that's
played
interesting, okay.
through- I've played through like every Mega Man game more or less. I've tried them all, but like original Mega Man doesn't mesh with me. The Zero series doesn't really mesh with me.
Oh,
The only other one
Zero's,
I'd say,
really, really hard.
yeah, the
It's
only
just
one I
very
would say
punishing.
ever like really meshed with me was Mega Man Legends. Weirdly enough, but I could never actually play that game because I didn't have a PS1 as a kid. It wasn't even a gameplay thing. It was just I found that game kind of cute and endearing, and I just liked it. As a kid, only having like so much access to so many fucking like consoles and games, Mega Man with its like completely different art style to anything that the series had done before got my attention really easily. I instantly fell in love with the character designs. I found the manga just at like a secondhand bookstore, I think, as a kid. A lot of my memory is hazy on this, so I'm kind of having to fill in some blanks, but I don't know, just something about the character designs and then the semi like dot hackish kind of interacting with the internet
Oh.
story just kind of got me. It got its hooks into me because full disclosure, Dot Hack was like one of the first games I ever played as a kid, and it was the first game that me and one of my sisters ever bonded over.
You have siblings? We've done a podcast for like 3 years, and I just learning about this. Okay.
Bio, I have 4 sisters and a brother.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
all of them half siblings, but I grew up with 3 of my sisters, so I consider
Mhm.
them my full blood. Anyway,
Mhm.
We need to put a pin in the .hack stuff. I have thoughts. I'm with you, but we're still doing our character intros.
Look out for
and-
our offshoot
Yeah.
.hack podcast coming soon.
Oh God, please. Okay.
So okay,
I'm entirely in the
just
attack with Zodek.
getting through it a little bit more. Battle Network with its interesting combat mechanics, it's really nice character design, it's really cool like isometric kind of pixel art style, and then, you know, on top of that being a game I could actually play because I had a Game Boy Advance. Just fell in love, and choosing like a favorite Navi is one of the hardest decisions in my life because Proto Man's right there. He's so fucking cool. Base is right there. He's so fucking cool.
I can't hold all these cool ass characters, dude.
They got a lot of cool
Darkman
characters.
is right there. He's so fucking cool.
Is that guy with the penis head?
Darkman is Darkman has like this glass kind of half dome head, and he's got like this big purple overcoat with spikes on it. He's just fucking. I'll grab a picture of him in a minute.
Bro, he has a
Yeah,
penis
looking
head.
at the concept art, like his little like dome head, it was apparently gonna like change with his element. It's like really cool.
That is cool.
Full disclosure, I'm really drawn to characters that either start off as or remain villains. Like Torchman's cool, Skullman's really fucking cool. I just love his goofy ass design.
Yeah, I like Skullman.
If I ended up having to choose one that I love most, I'd say Base, ultimately, just because they really flesh out Base's character in the manga, and I just fucking adore his weird,
Yeah.
stupid head ear things.
Those
I'm
are his
gonna vote for something in
stabilizers.
general, and you're gonna enjoy it. But continue.
Proto Man's a close second because they give that motherfucker Muramasa, like, oh my god.
Ah, Muramasa style.
But yeah, the first game I ever played was Battle Network 1. I've played through the entire series. If I had to choose one that I think would be my favorite, it would be either, and I'm going off hazy memory here, so these games might not be good on a second playthrough, but it was either Team Proto Man or Psybeast Gregar, which I remember having like conflicting feelings about Gregar because, you know, they completely go a different fucking direction in the game. Like, you get rid of half the cast. So that's me. That took longer than I thought. Sorry.
No, that's
Eh,
good.
it's fine.
What? No, I mean, that's the point.
That's the point.
I
I'm
got that.
gonna select
I
at
love
random
that little meta
again.
art. Oh my.
Why don't we go with Yuki?
I'm Yuki. I am a speedrunner for Battle Network and Star Force for Team BN, and I occasionally beta test for a few people here and there. I think so far I've beta tested EXE 4.5 Real Operation, the English translation. As of right now, I'm currently beta testing Megaman Battle Network Chrono X for multiplayer, and I think a little bit of the Android build.
And wait, there's an Android build?
Yeah, there will be an Android.
Yo,
Yeah, there will
right
be.
now.
That's
thankfully,
cool.
Thankfully, they've said it, so I'm fine with saying it. Or else I'm gonna
That's
Android
cool.
build
I'd
has
get
been in the
shot.
works for a while.
Has
Yes,
it?
like every week we get someone coming in saying when Android. It's hilarious.
And the other thing I've beta tested would be Mega Man Star Force DX, which is probably my favorite one. But other than that, I got introduced to like Mega Man in general with my cousin emulating the Super Nintendo games. So I got introduced with Mega Man X1, Mega Man 7, and Mega Man Soccer.
Oh my.
I didn't know
That's
there was
a
Mega
weird
Man
thing.
Soccer. Yeah, I didn't know
I
that.
know
Yeah.
about Mega Man Soccer, but I didn't think anyone in any form of sanity had ever played that game.
I never got it. Like, I didn't know how to, like, I was a dumb kid. I didn't know how to, like, properly play it, so I just went, oh, well, this is soccer. Oh, man, this X dude is really cool. So I just played X1 more than, like, soccer and 7, so. I'm more of an X guy now, along with, like, Battle Network and Star Force, because those three kind of just,
I
like, mesh with
love-
me better.
I love Mega Man X. That was my
It's
like,
really good.
whoa, so good.
Introduction to Battle Network specifically, if I remember correctly, I forgot what the extra like spare game I had as a kid, but I ripped off the label. I gave it to a kid and went, "Yeah, no, that's Grand Theft Auto Vice City on GBA. You want to trade it for Mega Man Battle Network 3?" And I just got Battle Network 3 White, and I guess he never played it because he never brought it up ever again. So I just got really lucky.
Brought it
But
up
that's for the game.
Despising you in the background.
The
When he
silent
finally
grudge for the
played it.
next 10
Wait a
years.
minute. This isn't Vice City.
He's been
But that's my
plotting
introduction to
that
the
he
game.
he had that
Either
idea of
that or
like
he has a very different idea of how Vice City works to the rest of us.
Yeah, but my introduction to Battle Network in general was I came home from therapy one day, turned on my TV, and they were airing the episodes where Mega Man died in the anime. I was like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll watch.
That's a good arc. I love that arc.
It is pretty good. I didn't know what was going on or how or why he died. I just knew he was dead.
Mega Man is fucking dead.
I can't
That's the
believe
end of
he's
the
dead now. He's
podcast.
just a
Goodbye.
floating gold ring.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. Mega Man died.
Spoilers. My bad.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll get there.
Yeah, okay.
But other than that, let's see. Favorite Navi, was it, right?
Yes.
Let's see. I'm about to go with the cop-out answer because it's pretty much just my brand at this point. Dark Mega Man. I love me the edgy boy.
He's pretty cool.
Entirely fair, honestly.
Yeah.
A good evil version of a character is a great trope. We love
Especially
I
in the
really-
manga from what I've seen.
I don't think I ever have like fully watched Mega Man stream because when I was like trying to watch them when I was a kid, I could not find a subbed version to save my life. So I like completely like skipped over stream.
Sorry to interject before we move on, but how old is everybody here? Just curious.
27.
I am 28.
I am also 28.
I am also 28.
Oh boy.
Am I the youngest one here?
Okay, so I'm
How old are
I'm
how
thir-
old are you, Double?
32, turning 33.
Okay. Congrats.
Foreshadowing is a literary device used to anyways, Bio, go ahead.
Okay. So hi, I'm Bio. I'm also on the Millennium Mic with Shorah. Really fun. I'm the newbie there, so a lot of my bits and like stuff that I offer to the table for Yu-Gi-Oh is like, here's what a brand new person thinks about this, and also someone who doesn't pay attention.
Bio
But
really
I'm
loves
actually excited
Bubble Man,
to.
everybody send him pictures.
I do
of
not.
Bubble
Shut
Man.
up.
How
Shut
do
up.
you feel about Time Wizard, by the way?
Yeah, it's about okay. So I'm actually really excited to start this podcast because I actually grew up with Battle Network and feel like I know it pretty well, and so like actually being able to engage in some good discussion where I can offer something other than like newbie experience is really exciting. I grew up with Mega Man pretty much like since I was born. I think I had like Mega Man X on the SNES and played that, and then bought the other like X2, X3, and then eventually got the collection on GameCube. For Battle Network though, I think it was playing in some like doctor's office, or it was playing like on a TV somewhere, and I was like, I know that guy. Like I play him on my SNES. And so then I watched a little bit of NT Warrior and never got to like really watch TV. So if you watch the Millennium Mic, you know my past kind of like my parents were super conservative, very Christian. So I got to watch Bible Man sometimes, or
love
Veggie
Bible
Tales,
Man.
and that was about
Bible Man.
Bible Man.
I
is
haven't
so
heard of that
cool
net
and
Navi
totally
yet.
Not a Star Wars. No, sorry, yeah, Star Wars ripoff.
Yeah, he has a lightsaber.
He definitely has a lightsaber.
So yeah, any other media was like kind of not allowed, and so I didn't get to watch a lot of Mega Man NT Warrior. And then the way my math worked, I had to do it online, and so I found a GBA emulator and I downloaded all the Mega Man Battle Network games and played those instead of doing math.
A better use of your time, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Depends on
So
your
I
career.
actually don't really. One of the things I don't really know that well is the music of the Battle Network series because I always had to play it muted. Let's see. Favorite game? I think I actually really like Battle Network 3 Blue. I think that was one of my favorite ones. Because I like you like open up the post game and you go to the secret area or whatever it's called, and you fight Serenade and all that stuff. Like that was awesome. So either 3 or 6, Gregor. Favorite Navi? I want to say Base, but Shore already said that. I don't want to use his.
You can have the same favorite.
Yeah, you can take it.
Base is just so cool.
You don't have to
like
be
I had
contrarian.
figurines. Well, not contrary. I just wanted to offer something different. But yeah, Base was so cool. I had like the figurines that you could buy, and you could take his cloak off. And I had like some of the cross fusions. Or are they cross fusion? What are the style change? No, it was cross fusion. Of like Mega Man and Fireman and a couple others. Like
No,
those
it's
were so
Double Soul
cool.
now.
Yeah, it's Double Soul.
Double Soul.
Can I-
Cross fusion. Is
Yeah,
the
cross
Power Rangers
fusion is
transformation
Axis.
from the
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Can I just real quick say, Base having that like ragged cloak over him ruined me for
So
character
cool.
design for years.
Bro, really?
It was so
Everything I
cool
ever-
that the game, like the designers had to break their own rules about how navis were made. One of their hard, fast, like this doesn't get to happen was clothes. But Base with the
Yeah.
cloak was so cool in the character design, like the concept. They said we can break the rules.
You gotta
for
make an
Base. That's
exception.
fine. He's cool enough.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I never said my
That's
favorite
me.
game.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Mega Man Battle Network 5 Double Team DS.
Yeah.
Fair.
Which version?
Does it matter?
Both.
Transport chips.
You have to unlock like what? Do you get them 1-to-1 with the navies in the game?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Bio. Jin.
All right, I'm Jin. I stream on Twitch every now and again, but mostly you can find me on the ChronoX Discord server. Not really a public figure like the rest of you, but I have a couple of side projects I work on. If you guys have seen the website for ChronoX, I did the front end for that. And then I may or may not be doing something with a Battle Network themed tabletop role playing game.
Yo.
Ooh.
Hey, yo.
Yeah,
That sounds
it's been in the works for a
fun.
while. It's still a secret.
Yeah. I think I've
For now.
gotten
Not
a little
advertised
bit.
on my Discord profile or anything. My introduction to Battle Network. Let's see. I never got to play like a lot of video games as a kid. I have sort of a similar background to Bio, maybe not as strict with the parents. So like I had a Game Boy and then a Game Boy Advanced, and then I moved to the DS. But as far as consoles go, I jumped right from the N64 to the Wii and never had anything in between. So
Oh,
my
man.
first introduction to Mega Man was like the Game Boy Color version of Mega Man 2, and that was not a good game. Or at least it was so hard for little Jin that he did not want to finish it. But then one
Yeah, fair.
summer at Vacation Bible School, one of my friends had brought his Game Boy Advance that he was playing, and he had Battle Network 3. And I saw it, I was like, I want to play this video game. And then I went to the store probably a month or two later. I said, hey, I want to play this video game. And, you know, it was my one video game a year, give or take, that I got to buy. So I popped that in, and it's been a fun ride ever since. As far as like my favorite Navi, it's a toss-up between Slashman and Flashman. Yes, they rhyme. Yes, you're allowed to laugh. But
Yeah,
I
good
tend
choices.
to like the more serious designs, like the not the cheapy designs, the fully humanoid, maybe not as happy-go-lucky, but a more dour expression on them. Slashman, Flashman, both meet that criteria. I also like lightning and swords, so it's just kind of a given.
Oh,
My other
yeah.
options are Proto Man, who's very nice, but he's a little too mainstream for me. And Sword Man, who's
Yeah.
literally composed of swords, and I hate him.
The Battle Network hipster has logged on.
Exactly. And then as far as games go, I also like Battle Network 5. I prefer Proto Man to Colonel, though, so I'm in the minority
Really?
in that group. Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
Man, imagine going for the non-canon version.
it's not any less
Oof.
canon than Proto Man or Colonel.
Oof.
No, I think 6 makes Colonel
6 doesn't.
canon, right?
Colonel is canon in both games. He shows up in both. He's obviously there more in Team Colonel, but you
Yeah.
know, Mega
Mhm.
knows who he is. He
Ah.
exists in Team Proto Man.
True.
Check, you know who Dingo is in Falzar? You don't know who Dusk is in Gregar, and he mentions him by name in front of the Killer Man operator. Checkmate.
We'll have to argue about that later when I research the topic a little
When
bit
we
more.
get there.
Yeah, let him get his defense.
Will be technical difficulties. Stop the podcast.
Your Honor, I need a stay of. I need a delay of case. I got to go research my defense.
See, unfortunately, I hacked the judge tree, and
Oh, there you go.
Damn, guess I'm getting zapped for 1,000 hours.
So, I'm the only one
Hi,
left,
Double.
so I'll go last. My name is Double. The reason I brought up the age thing is because my introduction to Battle Network is a very strange tale. So, the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001 were a
God,
dark and
what?
dire time for Americans.
You can't just drop the terror.
You can't do that.
I promise you
let
I'm
him
going.
cook. I want to see where this
Yeah,
is going.
let me cook. I promise you I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
Do you remember where
Oh
you
my
were
God.
September 11th, 2001?
No.
I was
Yes.
in Dominican Republic. I
Yes.
was supposed to take an airplane home that day.
That actually is pretty
Damn.
cool and unique because that localizes
cool.
you. No,
You
it
were
is.
stuck.
It is because it localizes you in a time and a place, right? You know where
Yeah.
you were, right? I know where I was because I was in math class, and back then nobody had cell phones. The teachers didn't have computers in their classrooms. They were like in the teachers' lobby, right? And so whenever they needed to gather all the teachers for like an emergency, say, they would shout it out over the intercom, right? All teachers report for mandatory whatever emergency meeting. I remember this because it was unique. No teacher, like they never do this. And I was reading a Redwall book, forget which one,
Oh,
but it was a
Redwall.
Redwall book. And I was talking with my friend about Pokemon trading cards. Teacher comes in 15 minutes later, turns on the TV, right, and switches it to the news right as a plane is crashing into one of the towers. Now, the reason I bring up 9/11
Yeah. Wait.
That's
Yeah.
Still.
obvious.
9/11
Yeah.
changed everything. If you're a Zoomer and you're listening to this and you're like, you were like a baby when this happened, or you weren't even born, which is, man, I feel old. It literally broke a lot of people's brains, my parents' brains included. At the time, I lived in Florida, specifically the town of Tavares. If you don't know, Tavares is actually relatively close to Orlando, Walt Disney World. My parents genuinely thought that because Disney was a high-profile target, that terrorists were going to attack Disney, and because we were in proximity to Disney, we could be killed. This was a genuine thought that they believed. So my parents took me out of school. I'm an only child. Took me out of school and moved me to Texas, Wichita, Texas, with my aunt and uncle for a couple
They're gonna
months.
say Japan. I was like, okay.
No. So Texas, and I stayed there until after Thanksgiving. My uncle was a gamer, big into Dungeons and Dragons, big into EverQuest, because World of Warcraft wasn't introduced at this point in my life. And as I was getting ready to go home, because we drove to Texas, I was going to be driven back to Florida, my uncle got me a gift, and that gift was Mega Man Battle Network 1. So 9/11 caused my love of Mega Man Battle Network 1.
My God.
Worth.
Holy
was a bad
shit.
joke.
Oh,
I'm
that was a
sorry.
ride.
Holy shit, man.
I told you I was gonna wrap it around. You gotta set the stage.
You gotta set it, yeah.
You gotta set the stage.
So, favorite game?
Yeah, okay. So my favorite game, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay.
Shut up.
Okay, no. My favorite game is Battle Network 5, specifically Team Colonel. That's where the
So we're all
conflict
going
comes
to
in this
fight at the end of
podcast.
this.
Yeah, we're all gonna fight at the end of this. But my favorite Navi was not in
Now
Team
you see the
Colonel.
Berlin Wall.
My favorite net Navi is Napalm Man, who notably was only in Team Proto Man, not in Team
Wow.
Colonel.
Ah, yes, Noctanic, man.
So,
I love
Yeah.
the smell of Voltanic in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
God. So yeah, I love Napalm Man's design. I loved his double soul. I loved basically everything about him. And he's actually pretty cool in the anime too.
He's in the wait. Where's
We'll
is
get
he in
there.
Axis?
So,
Yeah, we'll get there.
we
We'll get
say
there.
Voltanic Man because the dub localized his name from Napalm Man to Voltanic Man.
That's
For
correct.
Oh my god.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
so they
correct.
changed his
Honestly,
name, so he is in the anime.
I have these vague
Voltanic
memories of
Man.
watching the anime because I had like borrowed a bunch of DVDs from Netflix at one point. God, I want to say I was like,
Oh, that's wow. Okay.
13 or something back when. But yeah, back when Netflix was like still, you rent a DVD.
Still the the
Right.
mail thing.
Yeah.
And I remember like marathoning the whole series. Fun little fact: Netflix did not have all the DVDs, so there's just a point with the network with the NT Warrior anime where it just kind of jumps to some random plot line. It's real bad.
It does
But
that a lot.
Weird.
So if it makes you feel better, the anime aired when I was 13, and I don't have any crazy story to go with this. Like I was 13, I went and played Pokemon cards at the Barnes and Nobles. I played RuneScape, and I watched Saturday morning cartoons. Like nothing magic about this. But when I was 13, we didn't have really like streaming services weren't a thing. Rental services were kind of just getting off the ground. Blockbuster was still the biggest thing to go rent stuff, right? And more importantly, at the time, DVD like recording was not super widespread. Like it was a thing, but it wasn't widespread. My family still had a VCR, for example. If you don't know what a VCR is, fuck.
No. No.
Okay.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
No, it's not. It's not fine. I'm gonna boomer out on this.
You're old,
God
dude.
damn it.
Those who still know what 4Kids and that era of censorship is, those who are aware of the mythos of 4K entertainment, are pushing 30 now.
So
At the youngest.
in order to watch the anime, I had to watch Kids WB, which was the 4Kids era. That was where they aired Pokemon, One Piece, and this is the company, and we'll get into this when we talk about the anime. This is the company that notably would censor a lot of things that were not for kids, which they do, which I have a theory that they do in the Mega Man anime. Foreshadow. the very first
Oh, boy.
episode is called Jack in Megaman. I mean, it's the pilot episode. It's the pilot episode of every kid's anime you've ever seen. It introduces the characters, has a struggle, is introduced to a unique and amazing talent. In this case, Mega Man is just a really big ass kicker. Like, he's really good at what he does, and that sets the scene for the rest of the show, basically. So
Drops a huge amount of exposition on you in like the first 5 seconds.
Yeah, right.
That is actually a dubism I want to get into.
that is a dubism,
It
yeah.
is.
Is
This
it?
happens
Okay.
a lot.
It's a
You
dubism.
translate.
Let's also just set the stage for like this first podcast. We're just covering the first episode, and then as we move forward throughout the podcast rewatch series, we'll be adding like arcs. So
Testing the waters.
what's that dubism?
They don't want the characters to ever shut up, because I guess they think that if there's a moment of silence for like dramatic tension or whatever, then the kids will change the channel and stop paying attention. But that whole "I'm Land Hikari and I live in the year 2000X and it's just like living," that doesn't happen at all.
Really?
They jump right into the
has a
opening crawl
very-
for the theme song.
It has
Go
a
ahead.
very like, I want to say 90s, just like, my name is blank and I'm here doing this. Like, I'm going to explain the plot of the show to you
Mhm,
in like the
Right.
goofiest possible voice to
It's
get
so
you
nostalgic though. I
interested.
love it.
It's
I should
it's,
probably
like,
also
equal
watch
parts
the sub.
nostalgic and painful.
Yeah, right.
I'm
So,
Ash Ketchum, and
I'm surprised how often they drop the word Matrix in this, and I'm wondering, like, I never watched The Matrix. I'm uncultured. But what year did that come out? Because it feels like they really want you to think
The
about
Ma-
the Matrix movies when you watch the Battle Network anime.
okay, I'm talking out of my ass, but I believe The Matrix came out before Battle Network. Let me double check.
Matrix
would've.
opening. Matrix.
1999, yeah.
Release.
So
Okay,
it absolutely is a factor.
that does
So-
make sense then.
Speaking of painful though, the dub opening. My god.
Ah, yeah, I got my favorite note on that. Gotta wait a whole season for it to be decent.
Okay.
Oh,
What?
okay.
No, this one's great.
The
Oh,
dub
no, no.
Maybe it was just the bad quality of the video I was watching, but the dub opening is 98% just noise, just digital
Yeah. It's a-
noise.
How are you watching a
But
bad
it's so
quality
good.
of
He has-
they
it has
put
the gurgly all like,
on the
Mega Man.
USA YouTube channel?
So
net battle's about to begin.
So this is a thing that localized anime has done in this era, right? Because this was before executives at these companies figured that they didn't want these poppy songs that were in the Japanese versions. In my head notes specifically, I called out Dragon Ball Z, right? Because Dragon Ball Z does this. The
Yeah.
Japanese version has Shala Head Shala, which is a great song.
It's a phenomenal song.
It's a phenomenal song. But
I actually
if you
Dragon Ball
grew,
Z for a second, too. Do
Yeah.
you guys remember when Gohan went Super Saiyan 2 in the dub? He's like,
No.
I
Ah,
can't take this
yeah.
anymore. I can feel it slip. He's entirely silent for all of that.
In the
It's
Japanese
another
Oh,
version,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
silent, you hear the snap, then the song hits.
but
And then the
Americans who
same thing happens in Superhero.
It's very funny you bring up Dragon Ball Z. I have some notes on that I'm going to get to in a bit, but please continue.
All
okay.
that stuff about Dragon Ball. Can we do Dragon Ball Z podcast too.
no, we
No.
can't. So American kids who grow up around this time frame and were watching this live on network television, all they remember is, dragon, rock the right? Like, they remember the localized version, and they get excited for that because that's nostalgic. That's kind of what I feel here, because I like the
Yeah.
JP song for BattleNet or for NT Warrior, but for me, the localized intro is what gets me going, because that's what I saw as a kid and I liked it, right?
I love the opening. It's so nostalgic.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to me that that we can get a showcase of like the power of nostalgia here, because you grew up watching this show. You have this nostalgia factor for like this opening.
Right.
I grew up basically only having about 3 TV channels until I was like maybe 14, 15. And those channels were PBS, MSNBC, and Fox. So, you know,
Oof. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
this show never came on for me. I was lucky to
Yeah, that's fair.
get the Fox box on Saturdays, so I actually got experience with a lot of 4Kids dubs and Power Rangers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Rangers.
beyond that one marathon of watching this show years ago that I can barely remember, this opening, both openings, the Japanese dub, like the Japanese opening and the English dub opening, hold no place in my heart. And as a result, all I can really do is sit there and think, The English dub opening is just noise. The Japanese dub opening is just bad.
And
I mean,
that's
I like
fair.
the song for the Japanese. It's very much geared about, hey, this is Battle Network. Here's the show. We're telling it to you. But that might be
It's
nostalgia for
okay,
me
but it's like-
because when I first saw the Battle Network anime, I was probably in the summer between either fourth and sixth grade, and this was when YouTube was a thing before Google bought it. So there wasn't really any monitoring of what was pirated content and what wasn't. So over the course of an entire summer, I consumed about as much of the Battle Network anime as I possibly could, including all the edgy Linkin Park MVs to beast out Mega Man, and also the entirety of classic Naruto before Shippuden.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
in one summer, everything. I was
I love-
glued there in the kitchen.
I loved watching just Naruto episode 8, part 1 out of 15, and then jumping
Yeah.
over to part
Yeah.
6.
Yo.
I was usually able to find like two of the three parts of the episode that it was
Yep.
cut into, and the third one was gone for whatever reason.
Yep. And you jump on to the next episode and you're like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
But don't worry, there's so many flashbacks in Naruto, it doesn't matter.
True. Yeah, that's fair.
So let's go through the episode a little bit. In the dub specifically, like you said, they dump a whole bunch of exposition and plot on you from the get go. I'm Lan Hikari. I live in the year 2XX. I live in Dintech City, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's ever been called Dintech in the games or the manga. It was Dintown
No,
or
it was
ACDC.
In
Dintown.
two,
Like
they call it.
Yeah, I think it was
Density.
ACDC.
I think they added tech. This is another thing the dub does.
Right.
They add a lot of unnecessary
They want to make it
technical
sound more
mumbo-jumbo, like
legitimate.
jargon.
God forbid you have a pun name, because that's what every fucking Mega Man name in this is supposed to be. You've got LAN cables. You have a character literally named
And-
Mail.
Don't get me
Miles,
started.
that
with
just
Metal Man later.
Oh my god.
Okay, to be entirely fair, Land's
Huh.
name in the JP is Neto, like network, and
Right.
the hub's name is Saito, like website. So the puns were there still. They just localized the puns, I guess.
This is blowing my mind right now.
Did you really not realize
on,
this
dude.
bio?
I just never realized it.
Yeah,
Fuck.
no. A lot of
Dude.
the names in here are supposed to be like technological puns.
No,
It's
no,
like,
no, I get that. Yeah, just not that main character.
Like
And that's a very
male.
historical thing, because like
Male-
Rockman,
This is gonna blow
Rockman-
your mind. Yeah, this is gonna.
I know Mailu, I know Mail.
Mail is
I know
supposed to
that
be
one.
email, right? Like,
Dex's name is
Oh,
literally
what?
fat ass.
God.
His name
although
is a cow. It's just big. Like his name was literally fat ass.
now I'll get to Dex in a minute because that actually is a Japanese kids anime thing. I'll get to that later, but I want to specifically point out Meilu. For those of you that don't know, I live in Japan. I used to be an English teacher. I've lived here for several years now. I used to be an English teacher here, and the first thing you realize as somebody teaching English to Japanese people is they have a lot of trouble with the L and R sound. So, for example, if a Japanese person visits America, they would call it Red Lobster instead of Red Lobster, right?
Isn't it? It's because like the kanjis are basically the same, right? Because it's a single sound that kind of works for both. Like you said, Red Lobster would become like Red Lobster.
Right, yeah,
Yes.
it's not even about the kanji specifically. It's just how they pronounce their R sound here. It's a combination of the L and the R together.
Yeah.
Japanese is a phonetic language. It is that combination LR. It functions for both, but they don't have one or the other. There's no differentiation.
Correct. And so when male, right, is spoken in Japanese phonetics, it is meru, right?
Meru.
Meru. And so when they localized that, because when you localize things, you're looking at a piece of paper, they took the Romanji version of that and they went, oh, it's got to be Melu. But in the games, it's male because email.
This translation issue actually still happens a lot in modern day, which is really
Yes.
funny to me. That's why there were so many arguments around the time that Naruto ended, and we got the sequel series where he has a child, and people didn't know if it was supposed to be Boruto or Bolt, like Boluto or Boruto, because
Good old
the
Bolton
name
salad.
is supposed to be it's supposed to be a little pun on Bolt, Boruto.
Right.
Which was a pun off of Neji, which I think means, what was it, like nut or like screw? And it was
I
supposed to be
think
like
so,
a,
yeah.
a piece of hardware, so they thought they named him a little bit after Neji that way.
But
Kishimoto,
led
like,
to
ended
so
up that
many-
sacrifice to
that's
11.
so cool.
Yeah.
I
but
like
that led
that.
to so many people having arguments about that, and the fact that there was also a character that was Sarada, which could have been translated as either Salada or Sarada.
So for people who aren't for people who aren't fucking nerds, a different example would be I'm kidding.
You're
A
fine.
different example would be this was a big deal back when Kingdom Hearts first came out. Hey Bio.
Hi.
Final Fantasy
That's my
VII
game.
has a character called Eris.
Oh, no.
However,
yeah.
that was a mistranslated version of Aerith because in the Japanese version it's Erisu, right? So the localizers looked at that and went, "Oh, it's Eris." Makes sense. I understand where they're coming from, but it was actually supposed to be Aerith, and they fixed that for Kingdom Hearts 1 and for the rest of the series moving forward. But when Kingdom Hearts first came out, so many people were so mad about it. They're like, no, it's Eris. In my house, it's Eris. It's always been Eris.
People are still mad about that.
That is sad.
Yeah, I think I saw
is
that
Has the
discourse
issue
come up.
with Japanese being a phonetic language. They have only so many sounds that the language is composed of. So when we jump over to English, which is a mishmash hodgepodge of like 4 different languages or whatever,
Mhm.
we get a lot more. So the S and the TH are identical in Japanese, just like the R and the L are.
Correct.
So if there's no official documentation of like an English spelling per author's intent, then it's the translator's best guess. Which is why, honestly, I think Meilu is a really good localization because Meilu sounds like a name you'd give a little Southern girl. Like it's May and then space
Yeah.
and Lu spelled L-O-U.
It's
Yeah.
not.
It's
like,
not bad.
It's one of the least offensive little changes because like Meilu, I'm okay with that name. It still has a little bit of the original, like male pun, but it still
Mhm.
also sounds like a proper fucking name. So I'm okay with it ultimately.
Yeah, like I don't hate it. It's just it threw me off guard because I played the games before I watched the anime, and in the games it's very clearly male, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, that was confusing.
other things in this like first 5 minutes of the anime. One, I hate you, Yuki, because you called the net Navi that Lan uses to get beat up by Dex peeled Megaman, and I
Because it is.
Peeled
I
Mega
is.
Man?
No, I immediately
Land's
agree.
old Navi is
Yeah.
peeled Mega Man.
hate it so much.
What?
They
So-
could have given him just a normal Navi, but this went, nah, peel him.
Fuck
Dub
you,
actually-
peels.
Well, I
Megaman.
wonder. Well, did they
The dub
show
actually-
the like green and yellow Navis
So-
They
in the like
showed-
NT
yet.
Warrior?
Not yet.
So
It
the
shows
anime
Colorado.
doesn't have as many green and yellow navies. It's not as common of a design, and I think that's just because the design is so detailed with like I guess the ridges on the arms and legs. They went for more generic work that was easier to draw because there were going to be so many characters that were just from the games that didn't have generic sprites. I agree
Yeah,
that
I
it's
just
killed
mean, like-
Mega Man, but also because when the upgrade is made to Lance PET to turn that normal Navi into Mega Man, it does just look like it's the same Navi with an extra coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just assumed because there's the original, the basic yellow and green Navis. I just
Oh, yeah,
assumed it
these
was like supposed to be those.
Yeah, they do show up in a background shot like later in the series,
Oh, do
but
they?
it's
Okay.
specifically one of the BCC variations, which good on them.
Right.
Showing props at a good game.
So interesting thing about peeled Mega Man, that design would be kind of co-opted in the manga specifically. In chapter 2 of the manga, which is getting a little ahead, there's a sequence where Torchman 2 lures
Electric Boogaloo?
Lan into helping him with something. That's another note that I'm going to get to that I find
Battle
very funny
Network
about the
3?
difference. So anyway, they're trying to lure Lan out. Lan has an argument with Mega Man in the manga, but as a result, Lan ends up using what Torchman refers to as standard off-the-shelf Alpha 1 net Navi, which looks pretty similar, but like a more modified, actual, like surprisingly more of a character design than the.
Dude, that guy's
peeled
out for
Mega Man we
blood.
see.
He's just angry.
Yeah.
He
Peeled.
wants you
Scary.
dead.
Peeled Proto Man.
Like this
He's
man's
here to
not,
get the
not
job
even,
done.
not even like a
Peeled.
joke about anime characters or whatever. It's literally just the helmet, the face is designed in such a way that he can only scowl.
Yeah.
He just wants to kill you.
Like I know NT Warrior and Battle Network predates Yokai Watch, but he looks like a Yokai Watch yokai to me.
Kind of does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
What are we getting? Butthole Eyeball Man.
Oh god.
The net Navi.
be the change
Hopefully
you want
never.
to see in the world.
So I love how like Gutsman like can't talk in like a full sentence. He's just like, when.
Funny
That
thing
is
about
actually really good localization.
that is because in the
Really?
JP version
Go
he
ahead,
doesn't.
go into it. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. In the JP version, so at the exact same point in the dub, Gutsman goes guts, right, and starts beating his chest.
Mhm.
In the
Yeah.
JP version, he's literally just grunting, like whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
That's another instance of
Mm.
like a character that doesn't know how to shut up when the silence is there.
Mhm.
Dex doesn't even say anything when he wins after that first fight. Uh, Obviously, we also have the censorship to talk about. Shotgun to blaster and sword to cyber sword, and the sword battle chip that had the glow in the EN is just actually a sword, like it's a blade.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that took
You
me
see-
by surprise that it being like a real metal sword of all things.
Oh, was it?
That's surprising me too, because the original games also have like the laser sword. So I
Right.
just
Yeah.
I equated the two in my head. That's not.
And
I guess it's not that bad, but it's still something to point out.
it's a little like extra weird because like in the games it's it's a standard laser sword with a point and everything. There's a
Mhm.
censorship thing that goes on here in the dub. They not only turn it into the laser sword, but they give it a specifically blunted like circular end,
Yeah,
and it
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
really bad.
the sound effects also change entirely when it's being used.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that
interesting.
one.
There was a good series on YouTube that I was watching that has like Japanese versus English, and then they show all of the different changes.
So-
It's really cool.
So this was absolutely a Kids WB / for kids requirement, right? If you'll remember,
Mhm.
the Kids WB version of One Piece very famously removes Sanji's cigarette and gives him a lollipop.
Lollipop,
Thinking
yeah.
about the scene where the son of that one guy who's in charge of the base where they pick up Zoro holds like a mallet with a string and a safety glove attached to it to like it was like done in the JP.
About to hit him with a
Had
doohickey.
no chill. They knew what was going on.
So-
For the
By the
Yukki
way-
podcast, Kaiba having guns pointed
Yeah.
at him, but it's just finger guns.
Yeah.
We're pointing at you, Kaiba.
I
You're
love
under
that.
arrest.
That's so good.
Extra weird little thing about these swords, and this is just so strange to me, like the inconsistency here. In the manga, so okay, you know how in the games and the anime, the swords all have these like big arm pieces that are like, I guess you could call them equivalent to like arm guards or something.
hmm
Sure.
Like the arm shape basically changes. In the manga, whenever Megaman or other characters who aren't basically Proto Man use a sword, it looks really awkward and bad. They do this
Yeah,
weird
they're
thing
so
where it's just his
inconsistent with it.
hand.
That looks like a dildo.
I'd chalk that up
Stop.
more to the overall issue I have with some of the art in the manga than anything else.
There's, like- there's
I'd
bits
have
of
to
the
go
art
back
that's
over it to really get
amazing.
my. I'm not disagreeing with you there. Like I think whoever drew it did have talent, but there's some poses, some weapons, some scenes that show it was a rush job, or it was
Yeah.
just awkward. I didn't know or have a reference on how to do it.
The changes were absolutely corporate. Because Japanese anime, especially kids anime, they don't typically shy away from showing blood or cigarettes or beer or things like that because that's just a normal part of society. Again, I live
It'll
in
either
Japan.
fly over the kid's head or the parents will keep them from watching it. One.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the anime that my kids like to watch is called Gege. Let me.
Is it Kitaro? The one about the
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, Gege no Kitaro, which is a
eye creature
show.
who's by Goku.
Correct. Yeah, it's basically Yokai Watch before Yokai Watch. It's actually a little bit more dark and serious than Yokai Watch. It looks at yokai how people back in the older days typically would view you. Like if you see an umbrella with a leg and it's hopping at you, that's actually pretty fucking scary, right?
Something kind of unsettling about that.
Right. That anime is very, very, very not shy about showing blood, death, because it's a central theme of the show, but it is for kids. And so it just falls in this cultural thing of how Japanese society presents adult themes to children versus how American society typically does it. Japanese society just gives it to them and says, hey, if you don't understand it, that's fine, or your parents can explain it or whatever, but this is something you need to know because it's part of life. And American society says, hey, we can't name a battle chip shotgun because what if the kid wants to get a shotgun?
Wouldn't be a
Let the
problem
kid have the
nowadays.
shotgun with parental supervision. Honestly, like
Which is funny because I first learned how to fire a weapon, like an actual gun, when I was 13. So
I was probably younger than that. I
Yeah.
took the shotgun merit badge with Boy Scouts. That was fun.
I forgot Boy Scouts had a shotgun merit badge. I was in Boy Scouts
What?
for the
I didn't even know
longest-
they had that.
Yeah, no, they
That's
did.
so funny.
Yeah.
I
We
feel
also
like
just had,
I feel like
a
my
nuclear
parents.
science merit badge until one kid basically irradiated his entire house.
Oh my god,
Holy
really?
shit.
I'll link you guys a video later, but it's
Please
very
do.
interesting.
That's so
Basically,
funny.
he scraped a bunch of thorium salt, I think it was, out of like fire detectors or smoke alarms.
Holy
And
shit.
he had like shit in his backyard that he built a nuclear reactor with, but the shielding was wrong or compromised, so he irradiated like the entire neighborhood.
I think I've
Jesus
heard that story.
Christ.
It's pretty famous.
Well, yeah, you gotta link that.
Speaking of
Oh, man.
Americanisms, in the anime.
Oh, you're about to talk about what I think you're about. I got so many notes on something here.
So, one of the characters that Lan first meets is a character called Mesa
Ah, yes.
in the dub.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love Mesa.
The fish
Now-
dude.
The fish dude. Now,
Yeah,
obviously,
he's so funny.
He's funny. I love his accent. He has a southern accent. I have it listed as bad southern accent, but I'm from Tennessee, so I'm like the harbinger of bad southern accents. Go
Did
Vols.
you ever figure out whether or not that was
Hi.
Kansai dialect?
Hey everybody, Double here, using the power of editing. So what follows is a conversation about Masa and his dialect. I asked my wife if Masa has a Kansai dialect, and she said yes, but I realize now that she said yes to she will watch the video, not yes to the Kansai dialect thing. And so she finally got around to watching the video while I was editing this. Yeah, Masa has a Tokyo dialect, not a Kansai dialect. My difficulty in understanding Masa is because he just kind of talks funny, so that's on me. The rest of the conversation is good though, about how localizers equate Kansai dialect to a southern dialect, but I just wanted to correct the issue. Masa has a Tokyo dialect. Love you all. I double checked with my wife and she said it was,
Okay.
but so I'm deferring to her expertise. Kansai dialect substitutes a lot of words, kind of like how English dialects work. Like in the South we say y'all, right?
Yeah.
But people who aren't from the South would say you all or something like that, right?
Or everybody, or
Everybody, right?
you guys, or
When we want
Yeah.
to tell somebody to go fuck themselves, we say bless your heart.
Exactly. Yes. Bless your heart. Oh my
Deep
goodness.
South Alabama.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to associate with Alabama, but it's all right.
Yeah,
You know.
I'm sorry, I don't want to associate with Tennessee. I guess I'll leave this podcast.
Fucker.
I'm in the
Can
middle.
we
I'm in
agree
South
that
Carolina.
we're both at least not Florida?
Yes, we can. Fuck Florida.
Damn.
Anyways, so in the JP version, Masa has a very strange accent, and so I believe, and again I asked my wife, and she says she thinks that it is Kansai dialect, which in anime Kansai dialect is typically associated with Southern dialect in the States.
as far as
Because-
dubbing is concerned, yeah.
And in my personal experience, at least, because I live in the city of Kyoto, which is close to the Kansai region, but is distinct from it, right? Because Kyoto is a big city. As an English teacher here, I had, customers that would come in that came from all over the place, Kyoto, some came from Osaka, some came from Nara. And I had this old lady that specifically, I asked her about dialects because I was struggling with it myself. And she specifically said, well, you live in Kyoto, so you got to be careful using Kansai dialect because Kyoto people will think that you're like, backwards, like a hick, right?
Yeah.
So,
Kansai is, for whatever reason, treated as like Hicksville. It's very strange.
it super is.
I think you can see the same sort of like dichotomy with any like big city that's outside of a rural town that's still sort of in its roots.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like a natural like sociological thing to me.
Oh yeah, if I was speaking to a New Yorker and I'm like, yeah, I'm from Lennar City down in Knoxville, and they're like, what? Where are you from? You
Yeah, I'd
fucking
probably tell
hillbilly.
you to leave.
You asshole.
Yeah.
As a resident New Yorker, I'd probably tell you to leave.
Hey, I'm walking here. That's you. That's what you sound like.
Hey, I'm walking here. I'm trying to get my dollar slice over here, man. You want me to get
Sorry,
Big
all the
Tony?
Northwest, y'all sound wrong to me.
All I can think of is that one TikTok where a guy's crossing the street in New York going, hey, I'm walking here, and a woman stops him and goes, no,
We
do
don't
not
talk
do
to
that.
And then he says, forget about it. And she beats the shit.
Forget about it.
That's awesome.
Oh man.
I mean, that's all I got about Masa. Like, I love his JP and his English accent. The accents in the English version of NT Warrior, which we'll get to later on, are actually pretty good.
Line.
Oh
His
my God,
line,
so,
"Fish don't have eyelids," is like
It's so
I have
seared
two
into my
things
brain.
to say about Masa Mesa. The first is that like he's much more of a joke in the the English dub. Like when he's talking about how he had a pet, he says he had a pet salmon as a kid. It was a pet dog in the JP. Very
Yeah,
good.
Really?
And a lot. He
They
still has a lot of like
intentionally
punny language. Go ahead.
they're intentionally trying to make him funnier in the English, but ultimately, like, they kind of keep it the same, but they're just like over exaggerating a little bit.
Right. So he's very much the
Keeping
fish
him on
dude.
brand
They
with
want you to
fish.
be very sure with your 8-year-old brain and your room temperature IQ that Masa is the fist dude. Or the fist dude.
The
Yeah, he punches
fist
you.
dude?
Wait, whoa.
Sorry, I'm reading
I don't
my
want his
notes and I'm
wrist
looking-
near me.
I'm reading the notes and I have my my guts thump censorship note pulled up, so I got confused.
So
No, like they want you to be very certain that he is the fish dude. So he had a pet salmon. Fish don't have eyelids. You know, neither of those things are really in his dialogue, but he still makes a bunch of puns. This is also the recap of all the exposition we literally just got in the intro of the dub again, because Lan really wants you to realize how much more fun it is to own a net navy than to do literally anything else.
yeah, and that's because in the Japanese they don't do that exposition at all at the start. This is the point where you're supposed to get that little bit of exposition of Lan going, yeah, net navies exist. This is what we do with them. We have fun and we do this shit. When you get the English dub, you end up getting with this double exposition, and oh my god, it makes shit drag so badly.
It does, and especially when he's arguing about like the PET, you know, and like how it's so much better to net battle with the PET versus, you know, doing whatever Masa
Owning a
was
dog.
Sorry,
owning.
it's
Yeah.
it's pronounced.
No, shut the no, shut.
It's
No,
pronounced.
no,
pet.
it's not. Fuck off. That's not
So,
how
man.
acronyms work.
Masa was also
sorry.
appears a lot more in
Andrew
the know
Francis
than
in
US Lan.
the Legacy Collection says pet.
Yeah.
Heard it from the man
I-
himself.
Every time I jack out, I think about how relaxing it is to be inside the pack. Be inside the pack. Inside.
His voice director is at fault. I'm sorry, he was paid to do it. He probably had to list of them. He's
It's
in handcuffs in the voice recording studio right now. We need to save
He's
him.
like, no.
I think it's funny because even like in his cameos, he's like, "Oh man, it's a PT pet. I don't even know anymore."
it's pronounced hydrosity zone.
Let's not start that one.
No. Hydro
But
City. Do
but
not
either
even
way-
joke.
Either way, Masa is painted to be maybe a little bit more receptive to Lan's situation. He realizes he did lose to Dex. What is it? I forget what he says before he blows the wax out of his ear. In the
He
JP.
says, "Gotta
I'm not-
admit." He says, "Gotta
Yeah.
admit that's pretty tight" in the English version.
Yeah, so he's like feeding into Lan, saying, "Hey, PETs are really cool. Net battling's really cool."
Right.
So he's not just entirely ignorant. Though I think the entirely ignorant character fits future developments a little bit more because he's playing a bit, and that would make that make sense.
Yeah, about to say, right, he's supposed to be like playing a bit.
And it is funny if this is your first, you know, episode, right? But you've already played the Game Boy Advance games, and you know that Masa has Sharkman, which is one of the harder net navis in Mega Man Battle Network 1 to fight fair.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
triple
he's
out, you
rough.
win.
Well, yeah, but I mean, come on, I was 11. I didn't know what the fuck that was.
That's fair.
So, quick question for you all: how much do y'all know about voice actors?
Fair amount.
None.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Just a few with this, with the dub
'Cause
for
I
this
got
one.
some shit to say about the dub.
Uh-oh.
Starter to start with. Hey Guts. Dex. That's Ed from Ed and Nettie.
No
Yeah.
way.
Tony Sampson.
Yo.
You
Makes
hear
sense.
it immediately when he starts screaming.
I think I just stunk.
Was that English, Ed?
I can't not hear it now.
Oh.
That's fantastic.
That okay. Hearing his voice immediately made me go look it up, and after that, I couldn't stop myself from looking up more of them. And let me tell you, there's some interesting pulls in this voice cast.
Oh dear.
Let's hear him.
Okay, so I have a lot of notes on this.
I miss
We have
Mark
Mega
Gaffney.
Man. We have Mega Man, obviously, who is Andrew Francis, who actually has come back for the Legacy Collection. Wonderful thing to see. Did y'all know that Andrew Francis also played Joller from Bionicle Mask of Light? I sure found that out
Oh,
Oh,
Great movie. Fantastic movie.
I love
today. Did
those
y'all know that
movies.
he was in the Ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z?
Really?
He
See,
played
I looked at the
Dende.
same voice actor's page you did.
He played Dende.
He played
He was
Dende.
He
Dende.
played Little Green.
Yeah. Because I know in the Ocean dub, Land's later voice actor, Brad Swale, I think that's how you pronounce it. He voices Teen Gohan in the Ocean dub,
Nice.
Oh.
and of course Light Yagami.
Roll
Yep.
and Meilu, both of their voice actresses, unfortunately haven't done much of note beyond Johnny Test and a few My Little Pony cartoons. By the
Oh, you
way,
hate to see
a
it.
lot of these actors have done Johnny Test. A lot of these
Yeah.
actors have done Johnny
It was
Test.
probably a Canadian studio then.
Yeah. Gutsman's VA, Scott McNeil, however, has done a far larger amount of voice work, supporting roles in Ninjago, a few Psychos in Dead Rising 2, Suezo from Monster Rancher, the skeleton from Scary Godmother.
No, that was him.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
And Wily from the original Megaman anime.
Yeah,
Dr. Wily.
good old Ruby.
The
Detective
Ruby
Ruby.
Spears one? That's
Ruby
awesome.
Ruby
Yeah.
Spears.
But that's not all. He was also in the Ocean dub of Dragon Ball Z. He was Piccolo, Majin Buu, King Kai, Android 16, and a few
Jeez.
other characters.
Wow, that's some range on display too.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
pretty good.
His Piccolo is pretty good. His Majin Buu sucks. Not nearly
Are we
as bad
talking
as
like
Dan-
Super
It was
Buu or
weird.
like Fat Majin Buu?
Okay.
Fat Buu.
There's such a
It was
there's such a
weird.
dichotomy between those voices in the Japanese and the English. At least the
There
Funimation.
For
is,
real,
yeah.
I just saw that like a couple months ago, and I was like, "What?"
So, Mr. Match, Torchman, and Dr. Wily. We have Trevor Duvall doing a bad Scottish accent, Ross Douglas being pretty decent on voice, and Paul Dobson doing a pretty good evil old man. Trevor Duvall has been in a bunch of stuff. F is for Family, notably, Lego Star Wars animations, Johnny Test. But Ross Douglas is interesting to me because he was in Dot Hack Roots as Tai Haku.
No.
Yeah.
Holy
He was-
fuck.
He was Tai Haku in Roots. He's been in a few minor anime roles, and he was John Bison in Sly Cooper 2.
Wow.
Paul
Yeah, I love Sly
Dobson,
Cooper.
though, is where it gets real interesting. He's Sensei Wu in Ninjago, among a lot of other roles in that series. He's played Dr. Doom a bunch. And another Dot Hack Roots VA, Yada and Naobi.
He's the No.
He is the Steve Bloom sound-alike for Yada.
That's fucking incredible.
He was also in Bionicle 2 Metro Nui. He's also another Ocean dub voice actor for Korin, Dr. Briefs, Zarbon, and Dodoria. And his Zarbon killed me.
I heard Zarbon and thought you said Zardon, like Power Rangers, and
You mean Zordon?
oh fuck. Yeah,
But,
I do.
Look, I know you probably saw what was it like Gauryuger or whatever. I don't know the names of the Japanese.
No,
series.
actually, I haven't. I'm not super big. Like my kids watch Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, but I kind of only watch it when they watch it. So, like, I watched Dawn Brothers throughout because they were watching it. But
It's a very
I need to get around
good
to that.
dad
I
move
keep
to pull
hearing
off.
it's like the
Congratulations.
peak of Sentai.
Dawn Brothers is phenomenal. But yeah, that's basically all I have beyond a single note that just says, God, I really hate Land's VA. So
Aw.
It
Give
is
him like
better.
seven. Give him like
It's
seven.
better. They'll replace him with someone better.
so
Yeah, they got Light Yagami.
they got like so on the JP side, I'm sure there's some notable ones. This sounds strange, but I'm actually not a huge anime guy. Like I will watch anime, I think it's fine. I just typically don't have the time to get really invested in a series. So a lot of the JP voices I'm not perhaps as familiar as some of you would be, but there are some that I do want to call out. So Net's voice actor is Kumiko Higa, who is notable for doing the dub of Thomas the Tank Engine here in Japan.
Let's go.
Wow.
My son loves Thomas the Tank.
Oh my god.
But also did stuff like Hamtaro and was also a monster in the TV show of Parappa the Rapper.
Oh wow.
So basically, just a children's voice. Okay.
Yeah. She does children's voice
Comparable, say
acting.
you wish.
The voice actor for Wily is which we haven't got to Wily yet, is Katsumi Cho, who is also notable for doing exactly one voice in Cowboy Bebop, and that was the voice of the bartender.
Oh.
And also did a bunch of like background voices for like Naruto and Lupin the Third and stuff like that. So not a super prolific voice actor, but did do stuff. However, in anime, but in video games, was the voice of Kimari in FF10 and 10-2.
Oh.
That's
Yeah, and also strangely the voice of Lucius Fox in Batman Arkham Knight, which, But
wild.
okay. And then finally, and this is one I personally recognized right away, the JP voice actor of Rockman is Kimura-san, who has done a ton of anime voices. You could probably throw a dartboard at a random anime, and she's done a voice for it. But the one I recognize her from is she was the voice of Zelkova in .hack GU.
Oh,
But
that's
also,
great.
it is great. But I did a little bit of digging, and then I also found out she was the voice of Funshine Bear in Care Bears. Oopsie Does It.
Truly her standout.
See, this is all like the only fun voice actor fact I really know is like what the Japanese voice actor for Ichigo Kurosaki out of Bleach was the dub for Troy Bolton from High School Musical.
Oh my god.
Oh
It's like the
no!
one fun voice actor fact I know. The rest just it's in one ear and out the other.
I'm just immediately trying to imagine Troy just pulling out Bankai. Oh no!
It's over, Gabriella. Son Getsu.
So moving through the episode some more, we are introduced to Lan's mom, who sounds hot, and then
She
also
sounds younger than he does in the Japanese.
yes, which is so weird, so distracting.
Yes.
But basically, it does the motherly thing of like, oh, your dad's out on adventure or whatever.
Your dad is
He's
out in
Kyle,
it was like
about
some random
location.
country.
Borneo.
Borneo,
It's the
yeah.
same country in both, so that's accurate. That's good.
Yeah.
But there's like a dichotomy here I want to talk about, where in the dub, Lan's envious that his father gets to go on all these really cool adventures, and Lan wants to go on adventures too. But in the JP, that's not an aspect of his character at all. He just thinks his dad's like a crappy father for being gone.
Yeah. I did write that down. So in the JP
no.
version, he is disdainful of his dad for going on these wild adventures. Like, oh, he's off in some country again. That's nice for him, I guess. And then, like, yeah, he doesn't care, which is wild.
Yeah, the mom actually has to say, "Hey, your father's working really hard to take care of us. It's just not something Lan understands."
Right.
That is a very typical like plot point in a lot of anime, to the point where I think they skip over it entirely. I think what was it? One famous example that probably people are going to have in the front of their brains: My Hero Academia. Deku does have a father. His dad is alive and he works for a company, but he's never ever been drawn. Like, he doesn't show up at the show at all. And this is an exceedingly common thing with a lot of Japanese protagonists. Their dads are just not there. It's very rare.
Damn.
And that I can you probably already know why if you are smart, which all of our listeners are going to be smart. So I trust that. But if you aren't aware, the work culture in Japan is really bad. Even in modern days, it is changing with the younger generation as they start to enter the workforce. But back when these shows were popular and being made, it was not uncommon for somebody to have to wake up at 5 a.m, catch the first train out, go to work, be at work by 7 a.m, stay until probably 7 p.m. because you can't leave before your boss leaves. And if your boss hasn't left, you're just at your desk doing fuck all. And
what if he fell asleep
or
in his
worst
office?
case scenario, your boss wants to leave, but he has work to do. So he hands you all his work and says, do it, and then leaves.
And then once your work is done and you've had a long day and you want to go home, oops, your boss or your coworkers want to go drinking. And then all of a sudden you're staying out until 10 because it would be extremely rude not to go drinking and form camaraderie with your coworkers. So your dad is never home. And it's sad. It really is.
There's a huge emphasis on like group culture from everything I know in Japan as opposed to individual culture, and it's really strange and really surreal to look at from an American perspective.
I will say that COVID-19 did effectively demolish this. You do still have long work hours for much of the older workforce, and some Japanese males who are in their 50s, late 40s, early 50s still like now that the COVID restrictions are removed, still go to the office and throw themselves into their work because that's what they've known their entire life. But the younger generation is starting to recognize this as bullshit. My neighbors, for example, they're a pretty young couple. I would say like mid-20s. I see the dad at home all the time. Like he goes to work, but he comes home at a reasonable hour to spend time with his kid and his wife. So yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
And so it is changing, thank God, because that is one of the worst things about living in Japan is the work culture is ass.
Well,
Yeah,
I think kadashi, for instance, like the fact that they have a specific word just for dying because you worked too hard,
Exactly.
is indicative enough of that.
So
Like it's there's that, and also I remember the suicide rate amongst Japanese corporate workers is like astonishingly high.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Or it was astonishingly high for a while. It might have changed in the last few years thanks to COVID-19, I guess.
It is going down, but it is kind of like stabilizing because people are being forced back to work. I will say that prior to moving to Japan, I've never had to worry about being in the front of a train, like the first car of a train before. When you go to the train station to, get on a train, you'll notice that the front of the train is typically not as packed as the rest of the cars. And that's because there's a non-zero chance that somebody will throw themselves in front of the train to kill themselves, and you will see their body hit the windshield.
Oh,
Holy
Okay. Okay, let's rein it back.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So are we going to move on to lighter topics?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That got dark.
Lan has a
Man, our
letter
first
to dad.
episode, 9/11 and suicide. Let's go.
Look, we are all 27
All right.
plus year old men.
True,
We are capable of having adult conversations and
True.
covering them tactfully. But we also want to talk about Mega Man.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the point of the
we like
podcast.
Mega
So
Man.
we can visit this again later. But I want to talk more about how Lan hates his dad.
Yeah, Lan hates his dad, but his
But
dad
it's okay
gives
because
him...
dad gave him Mega Man.
Correct. Dad gave him a cool new CD, which he started to install, but then the install time was like 3 hours, and he was pissed about that. So
30
Lan,
minutes in the
Makes a
Japanese.
comment about it being snail mail in the dub, which I
Yeah.
actually feel kind of funny.
yeah, the dub.
I do
thought
like
it was,
the
wasn't it
puns.
30 minutes in the JP and 3 hours in the English?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yes.
Which, like,
Yeah, that's
that's
weird.
one of the few changes that I feel like the dub did better, because Lan falls asleep in that 30-minute period, and it just turns, like, midnight.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was having dinner at sunset. Like, Masa gave him the free fish, which I thought was a really good way to, like, tell Lan's mom, hey, buy my fish more, I'll be nice to your kid. And then, it is, like, immediately, like, dark.
Yeah. So Mega Man installs himself, and then wakes up Lan by shouting at him because Lan is a habitual oversleeper.
The transformation though into Mega Man, so cool.
It was
I love that.
No voiceover in that entire process in the JP.
Unpeels your Navi.
Oh, yeah. Something I thought was a dubism, but actually surprisingly turned out to be just an actual one-for-one translation. Lan, when he first initializes the installation, it goes through the process, and then Lan goes like, "That's it? That's it."
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
pet actually responds to him, going, "That's it." And
Yep.
I thought for sure that was a dubism, but it turns out no, that just happens in the sub too. It just
It's
goes
one for one.
yes. Just a minor funny thing that the sub does. Lan's mother makes a small, like a small little kind of semi-snide comment of like, his dad never gets me gifts. Like the minute he runs upstairs, she's just like, I wish you would get me some gifts, bitch.
I could help her.
He's too busy trying to get necromancer in the game to use my presence. It's fine.
Oh my god.
Immediately upon waking up, Lan is introduced, and at first he is very disappointed by Mega Man. And it's not quite as bad in the JP version, but in the English version, he is very much like, oh, I thought my cool custom Navi would be big and strong, like, super cool, and why do you look like a bitch? And
he looks way more like the peeled Navi I had before than
exactly.
Strong Cuts Man with his 45 IQ where you can't pronounce particles in his sentences or use anything aside from nouns and verbs when he's speaking in English.
Yeah. But in the JP version, he's a lot less aggressive about this dislike for Mega Man. He's very much, he's like disappointed, and you can tell, but it's not as bad.
Yeah, it's a pretty quiet little
I like how
comment.
this episode coincides kind of with the opening of Battle Network 1.
Mm-hmm.
Because they even like reference like, oh, the repairman came and like checked out the oven. And if you play the game, you're like, oh,
no,
it was
something's
him.
gonna happen.
It was Mr.
Match.
That is
One
Like,
thing I
I
will
thought
bring
that
up,
was
though,
so cool.
Land being a lot more upset about Mega Man in the dub versus the sub. This might coincide with the dub sort of painting Lan as not being very skilled. The one commentary we get is Dex saying that Lan's fighting like an amateur, and that's it. But in the JP, Lan is confident in his abilities as an operator. He says, well, I hate that I lost to Dex, but at least I'm a better operator than he is. Or at least I didn't mess up in my operations.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that is something really interesting to me, actually. Across the versions of Mega Man, there are these little consistency moments. The first chapter of the manga also covers Torchman. The first chapter of the manga also starts off with Lan and Mega Man fighting with Gutsman in a net Navi battle, which, incidentally, Navi battles in the manga are something you need a license for. They're illegal if you don't have one.
You're not allowed to fight in school either.
Sort
but
of
they do
like
it anyway.
the game too.
It's
Yeah, you get those different licenses.
Yeah,
that
because,
seemed more like padding than anything else because you can get to a
In
net battle just fine anywhere in the games.
BN1, Yai mentions like, oh, you can't do that in school without like a license or whatever. And then in Battle Network 4, to like lead up the whole tournament thing, I said, oh, we lifted the whole ban on people net battling. Have you seen everything that's happened in BN1, 2, and 3?
Yeah.
Fuck that. Everybody can fight, practice. We're having a tournament to celebrate that. Go wild.
Yeah.
But
That does make sense. I do
something-
like that approach where, like, the public is in danger. Navis are now allowed to engage in combat at all times. Where before it felt sort of like if you were in like a public institution, you weren't allowed to use your combat mechanics for your Navi. But like traversing through the net, it was fine.
But the manga actually does go out of its way to show you that Lan is a really competent like Navi operator just as a kid. The second chapter of the manga actually goes to show that even with an off the shelf stock Navi model, he can basically still take out like Torchman if he wanted to.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch because the entire point of Battle Network was supposed to be it was Mega Man and Lan working together to create that undefeatable team. So if you have like the English dub of the anime where Lan sucks before Mega Man, it's just not fun. You're like, oh, Mega Man's the only reason you're strong. Neat.
So yeah, they get into a little back and forth, and then all of a sudden, surprise, the oven bursts into flames. And Mega Man.
This is where I open my little conspiracy corner, by the way. Are you guys ready?
Sure.
Why does the PET have an infrared camera that's
I was about to
constantly
say,
lighting?
right?
Yeah, that is
So
What?
Mega Man can look
Why do
through the wall.
Navis come built in with an X-ray thing?
So the hardware of the PET
weird.
did not change at all. Anything that the PET can do is something it was able to do before Lan got Mega Man. So why does the PET sense that there's fire in the kitchen by looking and seeing like the infrared vision of the wall? How much are these Navis watching us? How much do they report on this to Scilab or the government or whoever? And when are we going to take it into our own hands to stop it? That's the important
Lance
question.
Wiley had a point.
And then,
Why does have a point?
He had a point.
but here's my thing, right?
Oh man.
If Mega Man can use infrared sensors to look through walls at will, why the fuck does he need us to send chip data?
That's another question I have.
Like,
When later in the episode, Lan has to plug out to go run to Melu's house, but then he can't send battle chip data to Mega Man, but he still sees everything happening in the fight. Why does that work?
I saw it too.
for a world that is set, in the future where technology has advanced enough to have these like little AI dudes doing everything for you, where you have a fucking computer in your oven. Why is the concept of wireless internet, of wireless data transmission so weirdly foreign?
They
And the
do
fact
address
that like
come to
Gutsman
access.
logged out.
They do address that come access. Battle Network is very interesting how it's constantly looking forward. They figured like wireless smartphone connections way before that actually got implemented, right? But at the same time, they needed it to look like modern society, and they needed to explain how all the net was still sort of connected as one unit. So the idea of the net in the Battle Network universe is there's all these wires that are running underground constantly that connect everything to create one like cyber dimension where everywhere is connected to everywhere else. One, that's terrifying. Two, I guess that makes sense. It's the way you do internet with wires if you don't have wireless technology.
Right.
Yeah, if I remember correctly in the manga, like the weird bit of the lore with the internet is that our version of the internet existed at one point, and that's what is now the undernet in Battle Network lore. It's the old internet.
Yes and no. The old internet is what Alpha is in BN3. I don't know if it's the exact same version of the internet we have now, but the internet is more like the dark web as we have it today, where it's sort of not on like public connections, but there are still non-government owned computers that have their own setup to the internet, where there are some ties to the main internet, but you're not going to find it with regular search engines or whatever.
Which then doesn't Battle Network 3 like show that it's like all the undernet is like housed under the like bathhouse or something?
Yes. And it's owned by the one
Yes.
who has like the same frequencies that Mega Man did when Hub died.
Yeah.
And then
Isn't it something
my
in,
canon
in the Japanese version where it's called the Aura
The
In or
Aura
whatever, and it's the AuraNet. So like it housing the server for that kind of makes sense.
is it Yoka or is it Ura in the JP?
It's Yoka, but Aura's the name of the inn, and actual like the undernet. It's just the AuraNet.
Yeah. That does make sense. If it's the Ura in, then the Ura net would make sense. My canon, by the way, with Mamoru, if you are in more games than you were out, or if you're out of more games than you were in, after you show up, you're dead. So Mamoru's just dead. Sean's also dead. The government killed him.
There's a funny thing with kind of going back to the infrared of the like needing wires to connect, because Gutsman logs out and like dies and goes back to like Dex like without even being like linked in. Yeah.
So that's another thing that kind of surprised me with the anime. I thought this was an English censorship thing, but it turns out no. They actually use the word log out in the
JP version.
In the JP version as well. In the manga and the games, if a Navi is like defeated in combat or something, they are deleted. They are outright just deleted.
And you have to restore.
Gotta have a backup.
Dex makes Dex makes mention that that he has to build a new Gutsman. There's the side character who has Woodman, who actually, if you beat her and then talk to her again, she's like, I'm sprouting a new woodsman. One moment.
Yeah.
I think during the Numberman scenario in BN1, when Dex loses, Yai takes mention like, "Oh, did you make a backup?"
Yeah.
So this touches on something that not a lot of fans are gonna like us talking about, but I'm gonna be blunt about it. Navis aren't people and they don't matter. The only exception to that rule is Mega Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even in BN2, when you fight Proto Man and what was it? I think the Underground Castle, you just straight up kill him.
After Pride frames you and Shaw suspects you, you do just straight up delete Proto Man.
You just straight up kill him, and Lan goes, "Oh, did you make a backup?" He's like, "Nah, I don't need it."
All of his code. Chaw's just like, "Yeah, I committed Proto Man's code to memory. I know what he is." It's like, okay, Chaw. The manga Python import Proto Man. Good job.
The manga actually goes out of its way to explain this concept to the readers as well, just with a little a brief little aside. So chapter 1 of the manga covers the entirety of the first Torchman scenario, like right there, which funnily enough, totally different. In the manga, Torchman almost burns down the school, not his house.
Yeah, a little bit
That
more.
is weird how the fire code for the life virus was hidden inside Lan's oven.
Right. But and then in
is he
chapter
named
2,
Flame Man in the
He's
sub?
Fireman in the JP.
Fireman.
He's Torchman.
Okay.
Because Fireman sounds like Fireman, like a fire truck.
Like a good guy.
Engine, the
Okay,
fire department
gotcha.
Fireman. It's the same reason we turned Aquaman into Splashman.
Yeah.
Spotman.
But then in chapter 2
Spotman,
of the
yeah, sorry.
manga, in chapter 2 of the manga, Torchman returns. Like Mr. Match and Torchman return, except this time Torchman is going under the guise of like, "Oh no, I'm reformed. I'm actually here to ask you for some help." And they're trying to No, funnily enough. They do this under the guise of trying to get Lan to send Mega Man out to this like illegal thing to help them with. Mega Man doesn't agree, but there's this brief aside where they're like, "Torchman, I thought I deleted you." "Yes, you technically did. I'm technically Torchman 2.
which does play into the games because you can encounter Torchman 2 in Battle Network 1 with the Ghost
Oh,
data.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Huh.
really neat.
That's actually really cool. Yeah,
Right.
version 2, version 3. Huh.
Let me
That's
let me
cool.
tell
It's
you
just
about
they're
it.
called like Ghost data in the games, and it's supposed to be stronger, even though it's not like a recreation of the Navi. Though I guess like the Ally fight, the operators will create new versions of their Navis and have you fight them. It's just they didn't want to put Mr. Match down somewhere if he was supposed to be rotting in jail to have you net battle him again.
Yeah, they kind
me
of
tell you-
do that with BN3. Whenever you refight the data, it after that fight, it just goes, oh, the leftover data scattered to another area.
Yeah. I cannot wait to cover some of the wild story differences that the manga goes over later, though. Oh boy, so there's a point way later in the manga where Torchman returns, and a certain other Fire Navi is just the same character. I think Torchman literally like at one point evolves into what's he called? Flame Man?
Is it Heat Man or Flame Man? Is it the quadruped
Heat
or the one
Man.
that looks like
I think
a
it's
zipper?
Heat Man.
It's the quadruped. He
That's
literally
Flame Man.
evolves into
Okay,
the
yeah,
quadruped
Flame Man.
later.
Flame Man.
It's I can't wait to cover some of the manga content. It's gonna be
wait.
so wild.
After Land sends Megaman in and they delete the Met tools that were making these really cute noises while, starting a fire, Heatman's silhouette, shows up and then vanishes. Now, again, this is the talking too much thing in the English. In the English version, he says, "What in blazes have you done?" which is real good. But in the
Good
JP
one.
version, he says nothing. Literally nothing. You see a silhouette and then he vanishes.
And they don't use a water, like Land uses a freaking fire extinguisher. Doesn't run to his bedroom for a
The
water
regular
gun.
fire
Nothing.
extinguisher, not your super soaker with no prompting of what to grab or where it's supposed to be, where you panic and run around your house with no guidance. Great conveyance, Battle Network 1. Awesome game.
Well,
Yeah.
you've got the
So
you've
when
got
he
the fucking
plugs in
trigger
his
button to tell you what
PT,
to do.
the
So
fire acts
this
up
is the
anyway.
argument for canonical Buster Max mode, by the way.
Mhm.
Mega Man is taking out like not just Metars, Metools, whatever you want to call them, but also the Can Devils with his Buster in one
Mhm.
shot. These things have like what over 100 HP and they regen. He's
Yeah.
not doing that. I'm sorry, it's not the games.
I also want to point out that even if I lived in a super technical society where we were all connected, and we had net navis that could do wondrous things for us, I would still not put myself that close to a roaring blaze to plug in my cable.
No.
I
Because
mean, I'm
I felt-
surprised
yeah,
that we
this
built
could
an
have
oven
melted.
to
That
do
PT
something
should've
like
just
that in the first
burned.
place. Because the hardware does not change, and I'm going to keep saying this every time something stupid happens. Why are commercial household ovens built with flamethrower hardware? I don't need to charbroil my turkey that much on Thanksgiving. I don't care if it gets done in 12 hours. We don't need to burn the house down literally.
I will say that this is kind of a Japaneseism, so don't pretend I never said that word. So I have an oven in my house.
Okay.
It is an oven and a microwave at the exact same time.
Nice.
It is a dual purpose thing. It is really neat. A lot of Japanese houses, like Land has a really nice house for Japan. Let me be clear. That is $400,000 house and land, probably. Like it's a nice place. But most Japanese houses and apartments, especially, don't have room for an oven. So my oven is not built into my house. It is actually standalone on a thing, and it's plugged in, and I can move it at any point. And that's because space is a premium in Japan. It's not out of the realm of possibility for futuristic ovens to have, charbroil capabilities, because Japan by nature tends to like more modular things. And so if something has more features into one option, that's usually better, right? I understand where you're going with it. I could see why they put it in. I don't understand why they have literal flamethrowers though. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
or the school security robots in 6 that come equipped with tasers and flamethrowers.
Right, exactly.
Or a lot of the things that computers and machines do in Battle Network when viruses get into them make no sense for a machine or a computer to do, regardless of whether or not there's a virus in them. It's just a public safety hazard.
Yeah.
So
Criminal negligence, even.
You brought up an interesting point about the canonicity of the Mega Buster Max. In the manga, Torchman actually gets taken out in one fucking hit. And let me just post these like two page spreads.
Teleports behind you, nothing personnel,
Yes.
kid.
He
Oh, that's sick,
Megaman
though.
literally does the fucking teleports behind you, takes out a sword, and just cuts through him in one. Like, they go out of their way to show that, yeah, Mega Man's fucking strong. He and Land make a real good team.
They even show the damage on the cyber sword, so it is just 80 damage. If this is the only hit the fireman's taken, he doesn't even have base game HP.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn, fireman sucks.
The little mouth guard pops up, and then he just nothing personnels him. That's sick.
I love that so much. I love the
That
mouth guard just kind of.
The manga
Yeah, no,
did
that's-
give Mega Man the Dragon Ball Z treatment. I remember at one point, like towards, I think this was the end. He actually wore limiters during like tournaments, and it's when Proto Man shows up. He's like, "Oh, I can finally fight at full strength," and he takes him off, and it's like a Rock Lee moment where they hit the ground. It's just like a cloud of smoke erupts.
Yeah. Bio, you noticed something I was going to talk about too. The manga starts Lan and Mega Man off with the old style, the first iteration PETs.
Which is really funny because in the Battle Network 1 game, if you go and talk to Yai after the first day of school, she makes a comment about like, it sucks to be poor because you still have an old model.
You must be an old type. Huh? Sucks to be poor.
Right. That,
really
that reminds me. Okay, so I did want to talk about this. The main four like friend characters, right, of Mega Man Battle Network is you have Lan, you have Male, you have Dex, and you have Yai. This is common in Japanese anime. In my notes specifically, I called out Doraemon, which, if you're not familiar, is a kid's show based around a blue cat that can pull objects out of his pouch that do wondrous magical things. In Doraemon, there are four characters. You have the main character, you have the love interest, Shizuka-chan, the big guy that's big like Dex, who is the rival of the main character. His name is Goda. And then you have the fourth guy who is rich. I forget his name. But this is common. You see this a lot in kids' animes where you have the main character, the female love interest, the big rival character, and then the rich guy or gal in this case.
The last note that I had was anybody else try to like throw their chips into their PETs like landed?
Yeah, I almost broke my advanced PET.
You're right.
Where he just has like
Didn't
this,
know if
this
anybody-
dexterity, like a practiced hand, where he can just hold it all the way
Yeah, 'cause
above his head, swing it down like an axe, and it still slots it
Right.
accurately.
Yeah, because the actual
was so
PETs,
cool.
They don't have like a pop out. They just get stuck there. You pull it out manually. Which
Yeah.
for speed running, it is not a joke. That image of Lan just throwing the mini bombs over and over again. That's how I would do speed runs with actual battleships. I would have to slam them into my battleship gate, pop them out, do another one, pop them out.
Those things got to be made out of like carbon steel because I feel like you would bend or break them.
Oh yeah, I would have broken mine.
Yeah, so the oven situation is resolved. Mr. Match in the English version has a real bad Scottish accent, but it's kind of hot, so it's whatever.
Shut up.
Okay.
He says the line "Blister me bagpipes," and I swear to God, I heard that and I lost it. Like I literally got up from my chair and had to take a minute to walk around. You're also introduced to Wily, who sounds good in both versions. I have no notes on that. And then the big like problem of the show, other than the oven incident at Lan's house, is Male is practicing piano and doesn't notice that her oven is also on fire. And so when Lan and Dex get to have their net battle where Mega Man literally stops a guts punch with his bare hands. Like Mega Man is supposed to be really strong compared to peeled Mega Man.
Actually, it's a guts thump.
Whatever.
I think in the JP he calls it like Mega or Giga Guts Punch or something like that.
It is called, I did write it down, Mega Guts Punch, yeah.
Yeah, Mega Guts Punch.
But before the fight can resolve, Roll teleports in and says, hey, we need help. Male's house is on fire. Lan and Dex rush over. Lan gets there first, gets Male out, and then rushes back into a burning building to save his Mega Man. Now, I understand why they did this, but I would imagine Lan, when Mega Man was installed, would have a backup, right?
Perhaps,
so
yeah.
why, like, to me, it's wild. I don't know. I would not run back into a burning building just to plug in my device to go have a net battle, but whatever.
I think that's supposed to lead into the fact that Dr. Ikari is a necromancer in the games and trapped the soul of his dead son into a digital servant for his other son.
Whoa,
where it's
spoilers.
supposed to be-
Well, spoilers, we're not there yet.
Mega Man is meant to be like Lan's brother. There's a sibling connection there.
Right.
He has had Mega Man for one day. I agree, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but we need to keep Mega Man because he's our driving marketing factor. So Lan better die or win.
Did they ever touch on Hub in the anime? I
once.
can't remember.
Not once.
No,
It's not a thing.
not once. It's
Ever?
Not a thing. No.
Nope.
Never.
I
Wow.
think they
Okay.
vaguely touch on it in the manga, but that's about it.
Yeah, it is
I
strictly
think they do
a
in the
game
manga at
story.
least. Because I think he gets Hub style in the manga.
He does, but it's entirely
Yeah,
unrelated
but
to
it's-
the hub you're
yeah.
thinking of. And then base can copy it. So
Hub style base is raw.
It is a form change
Oh.
related to 100% full synchro, if I remember correctly.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
which
the
is
only
weird
time they
because
actually
then
like
Lan loses
mention
control of Mega Man.
yeah,
That's
the only
crazy.
time they mention Hub in the manga is just a gag thing because Lan wakes up. He's like, "Oh, aren't you my brother? The hell you talking about?"
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because they even draw him with like the hair and everything, and it's just a dream.
The funny thing is that Mail actually makes a comment in the first chapter of the manga going, they really do act like brothers. Which leads you to believe, oh shit, are they actually setting up? But fucking no.
Nope.
I think the most they do for foreshadowing is in the English dub, where Lan mentions the N1GP once Mega Man beats all the viruses in his oven. Says, yeah, we could probably beat Dex and even do really well in the N1 Grand Prix. And then that's just, he only mentions Dex in the JP. There's no mention of the Grand Prix.
So yeah, Lan takes Mega Man, drops him in, fights Heatman with the only two chips that Lan uses in the entire show, in the entire first episode, sorry, which is sword and shotgun, but beats Heatman very readily. Heatman teleports out, Lan saves the day, Mail goes to the hospital in an ambulance. Lan
Dex
says,
cries about Death Man.
Dex cries about Cutsman, but I do want to point out Lan says one line in the dub that I fucking love. He says, yeah, we beat old Smoke and Choke. Brother.
God.
Gotta get the zoomers with that zoomer
I
slang. Am I right?
fucking love the dub so much.
It's so good.
I like the fact, and this is probably common, that Melu sort of rebuffs Dex and Roll rebuffs Gutsman sort of at every turn, but it's very clear that, you know, the favor is shown towards Lan and Mega Man, because at least right at the start, it gives Lan some consolation. Like, yeah, sure, you're not the best net battler, but at least you have a girl who likes you, and Dex is just woefully absent in that department. So it adds a little bit
I
of
love
back and
him.
forth between the two.
Him like
Yeah.
chasing after me. He's like, I'll take you to your piano lesson.
I put in my notes, oh wow, Gutsman is a net Navi version of a Redditor harassing him.
Yeah.
He's got
God,
the
yeah.
IQ and the self-control of a Redditor.
The second roll hits him, I immediately just put in my notes, Gutsman flagged for harassment.
But no, you see, it's wrong to assault the mentally handicapped like that. So actually, Roll's the one at fault.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we can't do that. We can't say that.
Oh.
He can't talk right. I'm sorry, it's true.
There are plenty of people who can't talk right that are not mentally handicapped. I'm
Okay,
one of them.
That's fair. I have my moments too, but the implication is that Gutsman, or at least when Dex bought Gutsman, he skimped on the brains to add more bronze because he only had so much money to spend.
That is true.
Was my takeaway on that.
Yeah, Gutsman leading characteristic is he is a fight first, think later, or never net Navi. Shown by the fact that when he tries to solo Heatman, he gets destroyed right away. Like, no chance.
In tabletop turns, 18 strength, 6 int.
The only notes I really have left to touch on are briefly just the manga starts us off with Dr. Wily, surprisingly, talking about how he's going to control the world, and then some brief exposition about the world and about Lan, and then immediately drops us into Lan and Dex's net battle where Mega Man is one-sidedly just dodging everything Gutsman throws at him, not even attacking, just toying with the man. We then just get a pretty normal day. Lan skips out of class, literally jumps out the window, goes home expecting his dad to be there. Plot twist, he's not.
What?
Shocking.
And from there, we just kind of get we get little moments between Lan and Mega Man. Mega Man in the manga has this kind of mother hen energy to him where Mega Man kind of has to stick up his ass sometimes for trying to keep Lan in line. And Lan's a bit of a little fucking asshole. It's really
Tell
funny.
me how this is different from the games or the show.
Well, in the show,
I see no difference.
in the show he's not coming across as so much of an asshole yet, but in the manga he's being an outright dick. He's just toying with people, he's fucking with shit. Like, he jumps out the window of his school with his teacher staring straight at him.
I think they showed little brief moments of that with Lan, especially like I remember in Axis, like one of the first arcs of Axis, he and Mega Man like start like getting mad at each other and he starts being an asshole, and then like Cross Fusion just like ends because they desynced.
Yeah, they're just constantly blaming each other.
I've had enough of you, mega dummy. Throws PET on the ground, runs away to Netopia, and gets mugged again.
Also, weirdly, it's from what we gather from the first chapter of the manga, Wily's plan is essentially to just nuke the world, apparently. Because
That
there's
was his plan in BN1.
Yeah. I mean, he had to use like the life virus, which is some bullshit. It was very clearly nuclear material, but
So the life virus took over the military computer system. He sent it into space in a satellite to take over military satellites to connect to military networks, and then he took control of all the military technology on Earth, and that was what he was going to destroy the world with.
Right.
sorry, delete. He was going to delete the world.
He was going to delete the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we all know what that means.
Yeah, there's minor little inconsistencies, but for the most part, the first episodes we have here, the start of the game, and the start of the manga have actually been fairly consistent with like all of them cover Torchman. They get there on the path in slightly different ways, but they all cover about the same stuff.
So that's episode 1. I mean,
Yeah.
we're excited to continue along. It will diverge, right? Because the anime goes in a completely different direction
Hugely.
than the games, which I've never read the manga, but I assume it goes in a completely different direction from the manga as well.
Hugely.
Yeah.
So we're basically covering 3 different path lines here, but the first episode is largely the same across all 3, and yeah, that's pretty much what we got. We did want to talk about Legacy Collection, but we are kind of bumping up against time.
Yeah,
so
maybe next time.
I think-
Or maybe just like we can do a
when we start
podcast
talking
of
about
its
the
own or
games.
something.
we can start talking about the games later, but yeah, I think that's about it for this very first episode of the Program Advance podcast.
Hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Again, if you want to follow us, we're going to be doing episodes. How often did we agree? We said we were going to do this.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out later. But we are going to do more
later.
episodes. If you want to follow, you can definitely check us out on YouTube, Program Advance Podcast, or you can follow us on Twitter at Prog ADV Podcast, because Twitter sucks. You can just Google Program Advance Podcast. That's fine too. You can also follow us individually, BioRoxus, on Twitch and YouTube. I don't have a Twitch really that I use, so you don't have to worry about me. Jin, you have a Twitch as well.
Yeah, I've got Twitch TV/Jin Hikari. I stream like once a month though, so good luck. And I don't use social media besides that, so I'm a ghost.
Yeah, actually, funny story. Me and Jin met like 6 years ago now. 7 years ago, something like that.
2 or 3 in college.
Something, yeah.
Oh,
Yep,
wow.
and I just would watch him at night before, like, while I did homework and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then we've just kind of stayed in touch like throughout all that time. It's really funny.
And then we also have Shorah, who primarily streams on Twitch. Am I correct?
Yeah, I try to, but it's very difficult to work up the energy all the time. Shorah Art on Twitch, SHORAHART. And then same thing on Twitter, except with an underscore between Shorah and Art.
That's fair. I mean, nobody uses Twitter anymore. Twitter's dying, but I got you.
I use Twitter.
It's going to be a corpse soon.
It's gonna be a corpse.
No matter what,
If you
I
ever
win.
find
So I'm
somebody whose
fine.
name is Shorah or Shorah Art, it's probably me.
And then Yukki, your last. Round us off.
Alright, so thankfully mine is just Yukki EXE underscore on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. I am primarily a Twitch dude because a lot easier to just do speedruns there. Delving a little bit into YouTube, but mostly just Twitch and Twitter. Shit posts aplenty.
So, yep. Thank you again for listening. We'll have more episodes soon, and take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Oh wait, do. Oh, we got to get like a shitty kazoo version of that.
No.
I got it from